Welcome back to Umpire Magazine, The Hot Take. I'm Alex, and I need to begin this week by addressing the fact that Jamie spent the entire last episode insisting that Pitch Black was operating on a frequency the rest of us can't hear. Jamie, I can now confirm the frequency. It's a streaming platform with a fondue fountain.
And I'm Jamie, and I stand by every syllable. I said the man was on a different frequency, and this week he launched an entire streaming channel, roasted Umpire Magazine in a press release, and his stock went up 7% across 3 separate statements. That's not a frequency, Alex. That's a symphony. Welcome back, everybody, to The Hot Take. Strap in, because Follywood has genuinely lost its mind.
7%. Across 3 press releases. The first one said, and I need people to absorb this, PB Streams Picks now has more titles to watch. Please enjoy. Please enjoy. That's not a shareholder statement. That's what your aunt writes on a Tupperware of leftover pasta. Stock went up 2.2%.
It went up because it's charming, Alex. It's disarming. Last week you called him the vertically integrated mediocrity cartel. You said he is the cartel. And now he's vertically integrating into streaming, and the market is rewarding authenticity. He followed that up with Let's Rock the Iron House and got another 3.3%. The man moves markets with exclamation marks.
And then, the masterpiece. He quoted Umpire Magazine's own headline back at them. Iron House muscles to the top, but nobody's happy about it. And he said, essentially, actually, we're very happy. And by the way, the Follywood critics and Umpire Magazine think Follywood revolves around them. It doesn't. Stock went up 1.6%. He publicly dressed down the magazine that we work for, and their stock price thanked him.
And Umpire's response was to print it on the cover. They literally wrote fair play, pitch black. Fair play. Last week, we had the shrug rally where he typed the word shrug in an investor memo, and the stock went up 2%. This week, he's gone full populist insurgent, and the returns are compounding. The man put an espresso machine on a performance improvement plan 7 days ago, and now he's a streaming mogul.
I want to be clear about something. The launch party for PB Streams Picks allegedly featured a fondue fountain and a PowerPoint called Why We Have More Titles Than You. A fondue fountain. At a launch for a free ad-supported streaming service running on $100,000 a month, which the magazine correctly notes is roughly the cost of a wrap party dessert trolley. He spent the dessert trolley budget on the actual dessert trolley.
But he's not alone. Mr. T over at the Anubis Corporation launched Xstream on the same day. 2 streaming platforms in 1 news cycle. The magazine calls it a streaming knife fight at dawn, and Mr. T sent a fruit basket to Pitch Black's launch party with a card that said, "Congrats on your little hobby," and Pitch Black framed it. He framed the shade. Alex, that's power.
Mr. T hired 3 consultants, a feng shui expert, and a retired admiral for Xstream's rollout. A retired admiral for a streaming service. Meanwhile, analysts have downgraded PB Streams Picks' vibe to aggressively cheerful and upgraded Xstream to suspiciously quiet. We're rating vibes now. The Follywood Institute of Made-Up Numbers is doing vibe analysis, and somehow it's the most rigorous reporting in town.
Okay, but let's talk box office, because Iron House just did $26.3 million this week, pushing past $75.7 total. Last week, it was 24.3, and I said it moved all the tickets, remember? Well, it moved even more tickets. Pitch Black has the #1 film, a streaming platform, and a press feud with the trade press, all in the same week. The magazine calls it chaotic ambition and says the industry needs more of it.
It's still a 4 out of 10, $75 million for a 4. Last week I said the bar was in hell and we were doing the limbo. This week the bar has tunneled through the Earth's core and emerged in another hemisphere, and we're still limboing. But here's what actually caught my eye. God is a She Volume 2 just did $25.7 million.
Thank you. I need to address this because last week you mocked me mercilessly for giving God is a She Volume 2, what you called a standing ovation. And I explained it was ironic enthusiasm celebrating the concept of a 5 in a landscape of 4s. And now look, 55.4 million total. The magazine says it showed up to a party uninvited and ended up giving the toast. That's my ironic standing ovation vindicated, Alex.
A 5 out of 10 showed up uninvited and gave the toast. In any functioning industry, that sentence would be a cry for help. The entire Follywood slate tops out at a 6. The Summer of Discontent in Paris is still the best-reviewed film on the board at 6 out of 10 and 41.6 total. Last week you called it the Mona Lisa in a room of finger paintings. This week I'll call it what it is: the tallest person in a room full of people lying down.
You're so committed to misery. But the real story this week is the gossip because Follywood has descended into full institutional psychosis. A. Nord Polin at Friday Corp is in a feud with his own reflection. His reflection slow-clapped at him and things escalated. Meanwhile, he slid a post-it under Pitch Black's door that just said, "Noted." That's the most passive-aggressive act of diplomacy since someone invented the CC field.
And Nord Polin apparently consulted Follywood Bank about whether there's a financial instrument that can retroactively unhype a movie. There is not. But the fact that a studio CEO asked that question with a straight face and a banker had to answer it is the most Follywood thing I've heard since last week when Pitch Black accused a coffee machine of sabotage. Though I have to say, my favorite this week is Hans Vaughn.
The enemy's binder.
A color-coded enemies binder sorted by release date. Not alphabetically, not by grudge severity, by release date. This man has systematized pettiness to an industrial degree, and I respect it more than anything currently playing in Follywood cinemas. Last week I said give Tom Vandenberg a reality show. I take it back. Give Hans Vaughn the reality show. Give him a 6-part docuseries about the binder.
Speaking of Vandenberg, last week you said you adored him, which I am never letting go. And this week, YMS is sitting at $90 a share, and rivals are openly complaining it's unfair. Buck Thornton from Explodovision said Vandenberg must have a guy. Biscuit from Biscuit Pictures filed a formal inquiry, with nobody asking whether being that expensive is even fair. Meanwhile, Thornton and Nord Polin had a 3-hour standoff over a single camera crane that was catered by a food truck.
The crane was returned 2 days late, and neither studio's stock moved. The crane had more impact on Follywood this week than Manic Miner, which made $119,000. The magazine says that's less than the cost of its own poster campaign. It's being screened exclusively to a man named Gerald and his flask.
But Alex, we need to talk about Thursday because 6 films are dropping and it's carnage. James Pond, Underwater Agent, is a 3 out of 10. The critics said they slapped fins on a tuxedo and called it a day. Planet of Death, 3 out of 10. The Last Dragon of Eldermore has all the ingredients of a fantasy epic and does nothing with them, also 3. It's a 3 out of 10 hat trick.
And then there's The Silent Waltz at 2 out of 10. A 2. The lowest score on the entire board. The critics called it a drunk guest at a rap party nobody wanted to attend. It hasn't earned a single dollar because it hasn't opened yet, and they've already measured it for a coffin. I've never been more excited to ignore a film.
But Fearscape Ghost and I got a 5. And The Last Starfighter got a 5. Both Shire films, both Danantino territory, and that man has been dream storyboarding and emailing the PDFs to his crew at sunrise. His staff petitioned HR for pre-dawn email amnesty. Last week we talked about the rubber duck compliance officers and the flat cap mandate, and now the ducks have spread. F. Narvikson at the Norwegian Film Company was caught doing a full villain monologue in wardrobe with a cape twirl, witnessed only by a rubber duck.
The rubber ducks are multiplying. They're in the edit bays, they're in the wardrobe, they're witnessing villain speeches. Follywood doesn't have a quality problem, it has a rubber duck infestation. And honestly, the ducks are producing better content than half these studios. FSI shares at $10. The correct price for Vibes, according to analysts. We've reached the point where Vibes are a quantifiable financial metric, and honestly, that tracks for an industry where Please Enjoy moves stock prices. All right, this has been another week where Follywood has given us absolutely nothing to respect and everything to talk about.
That's the beauty of it, though. Iron House passed 75 million. God is a she-barreling toward 60. 2 streaming platforms at war. Hans Vaughn's Binder. Nordpolen fighting his own reflection. Rubber ducks everywhere. And 6 new films about to crash land on Thursday. This industry is chaos, and I love every